English Campfire.
Picture this. You're standing in front of your bedroom mirror, right?
Yeah.
And you've already changed your outfit probably 3 times.
Oh, at least 3 times, yeah.
Right. The first one felt entirely too formal, like you were interviewing for a mortgage or something.
Yeah, way too stiff.
And the second was, too casual, just bordering on completely apathetic. So now, naturally, you are back in the very first outfit, just questioning every single life choice that led you to this exact moment.
Which is such a universal feeling.
It really is. And right then, your phone buzzes. It's a text message from a friend. And it contains those 4 just deeply terrifying words. Just be yourself, with a smiley face.
Oh, man. I mean, it is arguably the least helpful, most paralyzing advice a human being can possibly receive when they're about to step into, a high-stakes social evaluation.
Completely. And today we are taking a deep dive into why that concept, that idea of simply being yourself, is actually this massive psychological and linguistic puzzle.
It's fascinating.
It is. Our source material today is a bit unconventional, actually. We're looking at a narrative story that was originally crafted to teach intermediate English language learners about conversational nuance and culture.
Right. It follows a cross-cultural first date.
Exactly, between a woman named Elena and a man named Marco.
And, on the surface, it reads as this very straightforward vignette. But if you really look closely at the mechanics of their interaction, this story is just a profound masterclass in human psychology.
Oh, totally.
It deconstructs the architecture of social signaling, the biological reality of vulnerability, and really explores how the specific language we speak literally alters the boundaries of our identity.
The stakes here are just wondrously high. So Elena is 26. She's a software engineer who moved from Ukraine to San Francisco just 6 months ago.
Barely any time at all.
Right. She is over 9,000 kilometers away from home. So you get that text message to just be yourself.
Yeah.
But how do you manifest yourself when your entire personality is tied to a place, a culture, and frankly, a vocabulary that is literally an ocean away?
And that tension, that's the engine of this entire narrative. We're tracing the anatomy of this state, starting with that agonizing pre-event anxiety.
Yeah, that mirror moment.
Exactly. We'll analyze the defensive social strategies we all use to survive meeting a stranger and examine the precise moment a superficial interaction crosses the threshold into a profound connection.
So let's jump in. We join Elena looking in that mirror, and the text describes her state of mind using a very specific cultural idiom. It says she is a nervous wreck.
Right.
Now, we all know what that feels like.
Yep.
But why does the body react to a simple coffee or dinner date as if it's, preparing for a physical car crash?
Well, it's because the brain, it actually struggles to differentiate between physical danger and social danger.
It really?
Yeah. From an evolutionary standpoint, social rejection historically meant exile from the tribe, which
meant death.
Exactly, it meant death. So when Elena is preparing for this date, her amygdala is just firing. Her cortisol is spiking. The physical toll of that anxiety is immense. And it's heavily compounded by the fact that this is a setup. Her coworker, Maya, arranged this blind meeting with Marco.
I want to push on that for a second because a setup is so common in dating culture that we barely even question it. But isn't there a hidden psychological trap there?
Oh, absolutely.
Because you aren't just managing your own reputation anymore. You are suddenly the custodian of your mutual friend's social capital.
That is a brilliant way to look at it. You're stepping into a proxy evaluation. If you fail or if you act terribly, it directly reflects on Maya's judgment.
Right. Why would Maya set me up with this person?
Exactly. So Elena is carrying the pressure of her own romantic success, Maya's reputation, and on top of all of that, the monumental cognitive load of operating in a second language.
Let's explore that cognitive load because we often think of fluency as just, knowing the vocabulary. But is the anxiety of a social encounter biologically different when you are doing it in a language you've only been immersed in for 6 months?
Oh, it requires an entirely different neurological tax.
How so?
Well, when you operate in your native language, your brain relies on automated pathways. You have instant access to subtle sarcasm, cultural shorthand, microexpressions. You can modulate your personality on the fly without even thinking about it.
Right, it's just instinct.
But in a newly acquired second language, you are manually processing intent. You're analyzing syntax while trying to maintain relaxed eye contact.
Oh man, that sounds exhausting.
It is exhausting. The underlying panic isn't just, will he like me? It's, Do I even have the linguistic tools to accurately show him who I am?
Okay, so keeping that immense pressure in mind, Elena finally walks into the restaurant. It's this warmly lit Italian place in the Mission District.
Setting the scene.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Marco was already there. He recently moved to San Francisco from Seattle.
Yeah.
And what is he doing when she walks in? He's standing near the door, intensely staring at his phone, swiping at absolutely nothing.
Ah, the modern digital shield.
The digital field, yes.
He's utilizing his device to signal that he is occupied, right? Which masks his own visceral vulnerability of just waiting alone in public.
So they spot each other. They say their names, and then, in a moment of sheer panic, they shake hands.
Oh, no.
Right. It is a wildly formal, almost corporate greeting for a romantic date.
Very awkward.
Yeah, and they both realize instantly how mismatched the physical action is to the romantic context, and they laugh. And Marco immediately says out loud, okay, that was awkward, and Elena agrees.
See, this is a crucial pivot point in the date. The word awkward is utilized heavily in American social dynamics, but its function is really misunderstood.
How do you mean?
Well, openly labeling a moment as awkward is arguably the most effective de-escalation tool in modern socializing.
See, I struggle with the logic of that, though. Why doesn't drawing direct attention to the clumsiness make the situation, like, 10 times worse? If I trip on the sidewalk, shining a spotlight on it feels like the absolute last thing I'd want to do.
It has to do with threat signaling. When that formal handshake happens, the tension spikes because both people recognize a social norm has been violated, but neither knows if the other person realizes it.
Oh, I see.
That ambiguity is terrifying to the brain. So by Marco vocalizing the clumsy moment, he is engaging in a localized form of signaling theory. He's essentially announcing, I am socially self-aware enough to know this was weird, which means I am not a threat.
So naming the friction acts as, like, a pressure release valve.
Exactly. It moves them from being adversaries navigating a mistake to allies sharing a joke.
Wow. Okay, so the threat is neutralized. They sit down, they order drinks, the waiter retreats, and they immediately fall into what we universally refer to as small talk.
Right, the classic small talk.
Marco asks, so do you like Italian food? To which Elena very dryly points out that they are currently sitting inside an Italian restaurant.
Nice.
Marco concedes the joke. But here is my issue. Small talk is universally despised, right? It feels like this shallow crutch that actively prevents people from having a real substantive interaction. Why do we torture ourselves with it?
We despise it because we completely misunderstand its biological purpose.
What, really?
Yeah. Small talk is not about the exchange of information. It is social grooming. It's a calibration phase.
Calibration for what, exactly?
For your mirror neurons and your nervous system.
Yeah.
You cannot jump directly into a profound, vulnerable conversation with a stranger because your brain doesn't have a baseline for their emotional reactions yet.
Well, that makes sense.
Asking about the weather or making a gentle joke about the menu allows two people to exchange low-stakes data. You are subconsciously measuring their vocal cadence, their resting facial expressions, how quickly they smile.
So small talk basically establishes the safety parameters of the environment.
Precisely. You have to build that shallow bridge before you can drive a heavy truck of emotional vulnerability across it.
That reframes it entirely. It's not supposed to be deep, it's just scaffolding.
Exactly.
And that scaffolding allows them to transition into finding common ground. So the job reveal happens. Marco explains he is a UX designer, he makes software interfaces intuitive, and he jokingly complains that he spends half his life arguing with engineers about buttons.
A classic tech rivalry.
Right. And Elena smiles and drops the punchline. She says, I am an engineer. And they both just burst out laughing.
It's an incredibly serendipitous twist.
But notice the mechanics of it. You'd assume their opposing professional mindsets would create friction. But instead, the tension between the UX designer and the engineer creates an immediate bond. It's like two opposing immune systems recognizing they actually share the exact same underlying DNA.
Yeah, the friction itself is the shared experience.
Right.
And that shared territory is the essence of common ground. On a first date, discovering this overlap is paramount because it signals that despite being strangers, you inhabit the same conceptual world.
And it turns out they share quite a bit of it. They've both endured major relocations recently. They both enjoy science fiction. They are essentially establishing a matrix of shared reality.
Which leads to this fascinating exchange about their new city. Marco asks how Elena finds San Francisco. She remarks that the people are very direct.
Which is a loaded word.
Very. Marco instantly projects the negative American connotation onto the word, assuming she means rude. But Elaine pushes back. and she frames it beautifully. She says that in Ukraine, saying exactly what you think without cushioning might be considered impolite. But in San Francisco, she has chosen to view that directness as efficiency and respect.
The source material focuses heavily on the concept of being genuine in this moment.
Yes, it really does.
Elena isn't delivering like a polished, calculated first date talking point. She's offering a sincere, slightly messy, highly personal observation. And genuineness operates as a social catalyst, right?
Yeah.
Because she drops the performative script of the date, it triggers a reciprocal unmasking from Marco.
He immediately lowers his own shield. He confesses to her that he'd actually been dreading the date. He says, I'm not always great at these, but you're really easy to talk to.
Oh.
Yeah, he rewards her vulnerability with a confession of his own insecurity.
The transaction of trust has officially begun.
Exactly.
Which brings us to the absolute emotional and psychological core of this entire interaction. They are halfway through the meal, the easy banter slows down, and they hit the dreaded awkward silence.
The ultimate test.
The source text notes that this silence lasts for exactly 8 seconds. Now, if you are listening to this on a commute or making breakfast, 8 seconds sounds like nothing. But sit silently staring at a stranger across a dinner table for 8 seconds. It feels like a geologic era.
It feels endless because standard conversational turn-taking happens within about 200 milliseconds.
Wow, that fast.
Yeah, so when a gap stretches to 8 full seconds, it is a massive violation of social rhythm. Again, the amygdala flares up. Silence in American culture is almost always interpreted as a breakdown in connection, like a sign of impending abandonment.
The instinct is to just panic, right? To grab whatever conversational debris is floating by just to fill the void. But Elena doesn't flee from the silence. She leverages it. She uses the weight of that pause to ask him a deeply unusual question.
And she decides to open up here.
Yeah, she asks, do you think it's possible to really know someone through language? Not just what they say, but the language they think in.
It is a breathtaking pivot.
She goes on to explain that sentences are structured entirely differently in Ukrainian than they are in English. And then she delivers this incredible line. She says, the feelings have different shapes.
Wow.
She openly wonders if the person she is in English is inherently different from the person she is at home. And when she says this, Marco does something highly specific. He literally puts down his fork.
Okay, let's look at the neuroscience of that fork drop because it's huge.
Please do.
Eating is a rhythmic, habitual kinetic action. When Marco stops that physical chain of movement, it is a biological physicalization of profound attention.
He's fully stopping.
Right. He is reallocating maximum resources in his prefrontal cortex away from the physical task of eating and fully toward listening. He's signaling entirely through body language that the stakes of the evening have shifted from casual dating to intense intimacy.
I want to spend some time on Elena's premise here, because the phrase, feelings have different shapes, is haunting. Is this an actual psychological phenomenon? Does adopting a new vocabulary literally rewire the architecture of your personality?
It touches on one of the most hotly debated concepts in cognitive linguistics. It's often referred to as linguistic relativity or the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis.
Okay.
The core idea is that the structure and vocabulary of your native language actually dictate the boundaries of your cognition.
Can you give an example?
Sure. To use a common one, if a language has 20 distinct words for subtle variations of the color blue, speakers of that language can visually perceive and categorize shades of blue faster and more accurately than speakers of a language that only has one word for it.
So, applied to emotion, if your native language has highly specific words for nuances of melancholy or joy that just do not exist in English, the actual shape of how you experience those feelings is altered when you are forced to translate them.
Precisely. To use an analogy, imagine trying to play a deeply emotional jazz solo on a piano that is missing all of its black keys.
Oh, wow. You can still play the song, right? You can still make music. But the complex emotional color, the dissonance and resolution that you usually rely on to express your soul is physically unavailable to your fingers.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
When Elena is speaking English, she is playing without the black keys. Her thoughts have to be entirely structurally rebuilt before they even leave her mouth.
I want you, the listener, to really internalize this concept right now. Think about the environments you navigate every single day. We all code switch to survive different social ecosystems, right? Consider your corporate self versus your weekend self.
Oh, definitely.
When you are forced to use sanitized corporate jargon in a meeting, circling back, creating synergy, bandwidth, does that rigid, sterile language literally change the shape of your thoughts in that room? Compare that to the loose, rhythmic, inside joke-heavy language you use with your oldest friend. You are a fundamentally different version of yourself depending on the vocabulary you are permitted to use. And that is what makes Elena's admission so incredibly brave. By opening up about the exhaustion and the identity crisis of translating her very soul, she is handing Marco the ultimate map to her internal world.
Yeah.
She is admitting that the version of her he is seeing is incomplete, but she wants him to understand why.
And Marco honors that vulnerability. The connection is solidified. And the rest of the date sails by smoothly. They linger at the table long after the plates are cleared. The waiter is hovering, heavily hinting that he needs the table turned over.
We've all been there.
Right. So they order a dessert they don't even want just to manufacture a socially acceptable excuse to keep sitting across from each other.
Buying time is the universal behavioral metric of a highly successful date.
But eventually, the inevitable arrives. The check is placed on the table. Marco instinctively reaches for it, but Elena stops him. She insists they split it. She wants to go Dutch and pay her own way.
Now, this is a critical negotiation of modern social dynamics. Financial transactions on first dates are heavily loaded with signaling theory.
Because of the history.
Yes. Historically, the traditional dynamic of one party paying often established a subtle, unspoken debt obligation dynamic. It creates a hierarchy.
So by insisting on splitting the check, she's actively rejecting that hierarchy.
Yes. She's drawing a boundary. She is signaling that she views this interaction as a meeting of absolute peers. She's establishing her independence and ensuring they remain on equal footing. It removes the transactional pressure from the romance.
And the way she seals this negotiation is just brilliant. She plays her card down, looks across the table at Marco and says, but maybe next time we can argue about it.
A masterclass in intention.
Next time. Those two words completely obliterate the agonizing post-date ambiguity.
So relieving.
There's no strategic waiting period. There's no staring at a phone for 3 days, wondering if she actually had a good time or it was just being polite. She explicitly states her desire for a future iteration of this connection.
Which brings us to the ultimate distinction this story offers. Early in the date, they found common ground, right? Common ground is logical. It's the Venn diagram of shared facts. You both work in tech, you both moved, you both like science fiction. But you can share common ground with a coworker you genuinely dislike.
True.
What Marco and Elena achieved through that 8-second silence and the discussion of linguistic identity was connection. Connection is not logical. It is an unmanufactured neurochemical reality. It's a feeling of closeness that occurs only when the performative masks are dropped.
We started this deep dive looking at a simple narrative designed to teach conversational English. But by peeling back the layers, we've mapped the intricate architecture of human intimacy. We watched two strangers navigate the biological threat of the setup.
We saw them use the mundane tool of small talk to safely calibrate their nervous systems.
We witnessed how naming an awkward moment instantly dissolved its power.
And most powerfully, we saw how leaning into the terrifying void of silence allowed Elena to open up about the fractured nature of her linguistic identity, turning a massive vulnerability into the exact mechanism that secured a genuine connection.
It's a stark reminder that language is never just a utility. It's never just a system for transferring data like pass the salt or what time's the meeting. Language is the foundational architecture of trust. It is the bridge we construct, word by word, to reach the island of another human being.
And when you are building that bridge using a vocabulary that isn't native to your own brain, every single sentence carries the weight of your entire identity.
I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. Let's go back to that mirror at the very beginning of our discussion.
Yeah.
You are staring at your reflection, trying to decode what it actually means to just be yourself. Elena had the profound realization that her feelings possessed entirely different shapes when she was forced to express them in English rather than Ukrainian. If the architecture of our emotions and the very boundaries of our identities are strictly limited by the words we have access to, what parts of your own personality are lying completely dormant right now? What brilliant, complex, or deeply vulnerable parts of you are just waiting in the dark for you to learn the right vocabulary or to find the right conversation so they can finally be let out?
That is a question well worth sitting with in the silence.
Until next time, keep diving deep.